Hello and welcome to another episode of CVR POV. Hopefully on this channel I can save you some money and teach you things that you perhaps didn't know. In this video guys, I'm going to show you an amazing trick. It's an awesome hack that allows you to repair broken plastics. Now the piece of plastic is actually missing from this damaged wing mirror, so I'm going to show you a way of using things that you may already have in the house to repair this, but not only repair it to a standard where somebody wouldn't even know that it was damaged in the first place. So we're not just going to glue something back in, we're going to do something way more interesting than that. And if you just follow this quick tutorial, it will definitely open your eyes and open your mind to fixing loads of different things that have got this kind of damage. So the first thing we need to be doing is we're just going to clear out any little plastic shards or any jagged edges from where the wing mirror covers. Obviously it's been hit by something, it's split, it's knocked the piece out, it's perhaps not going to be a really nice uniform hole, so we're just tidying those edges up. At this point I would recommend definitely wearing some kind of hand protection, some gloves. So the first thing we're going to use is this tape. Now this is actually metal tape, it's aluminium tape, or it's sometimes known as foil tape. All the things I'm going to use today I'm going to put in the description of this video, so after you've watched it, if you need to find anything you can easily access it down there in the description. This stuff's easily accessible and it doesn't cost a lot. It's really cost effective and it's absolutely vital for this method that I'm about to show you. So we're just placing a little piece of that over the front of our wing mirror in this case, or whatever plastic you're trying to repair. Next thing we're going to get is some sodium bicarbonate, otherwise known as bicarbonate of soda. Again, very cheap, easily accessible, and you probably don't need as much as what I've got, but I've started using it quite a lot for quite a lot of things. Now I know this really cool trick. We've also got some super glue, so I'm using a little spoon. You don't have to use a spoon, you can use a normal spoon, you can use your fingers, but we've just flipped the wing mirror over and we're just pouring a very fine light amount over that little foil piece from the back. We don't want to be putting too much on at this point, we're just giving it a very light coat, and I'm just using a little brush just to make sure it's spread out nice and uniform. So we're going to get our super glue and we're just very carefully going to start applying some blobs of the super glue. We want even coverage at this point, so just sort of do it nice and steady, nice and slow. Let it sit on top of the bicarbonate of soda. It might be worth mentioning at this point that this does let off quite a bit of potent smell, so just wear the correct PPE and or be in a ventilated area when you're doing this. This is actually pretty much in real time, so that just shows you exactly how quick this is actually working. So what we're doing now is we are layering up a bit more of the soda bicarbonate. Again, brushing it over the area. We want a nice even coverage, and you'll notice when you're doing this yourself that it's pretty much solidified immediately from the last application of glue. We're now moving on to the next layer, so repeat the process again. We're putting some blobs of the super glue all over, let it settle, let it join together. We want a nice even uniform layer each time, and then this time I'm just putting a very fine layer on with my fingers. Obviously we're wearing gloves, that's another reason why you need the correct PPE for this method. So I'm just literally sprinkling another layer on. We don't want to be putting too much on at these layers because we want it to literally be building up, because don't forget we're creating a piece that isn't there. So it does take a little bit of time for the chemical reaction to happen, but as I say, this is nearly in real time, so it's quite a fast process. Obviously I'm just speeding things up a little bit quicker just to show you guys the process happening a bit faster. It's a bit boring if I had it in real time. So yet again, we're just building those layers up. It should be spreading out each time because eventually I want it to form around the hole. Once it starts looking like that and you're happy that you've covered not only the hole that's been made with the damage but also slightly around it, it's time to flip over the piece you're working on and it's time to carefully take off that foil tape. It's unusual with this tape because we're now taking the tape off and it's not leaving any remnants of the tape anymore, so we 100% put some tape on, 100% of it's coming off. We have literally just used the tape to form a protective barrier that we can build some layers on. At this point now you should have a pretty solid and secure layer of bicarbonate of soda mixed with super glue, which has formed us a barrier that we can now work on from the front. All I'm doing at this point now is where I've noticed there's a little couple of areas that aren't quite filled or there's not super glue there, you can kind of see it. I just want to fill them in from this side so that I know we've got a completely solid area to do the next stage on. If you need to do this stage from the front like I did, then I recommend don't put loads of glue on, don't put loads of the bicarbonate of soda on it, just put a very, very thin layer down because we have now got to try and level that out. As you can see, or as it should be, the layer is really solid, which is fantastic because that gives me confidence to go on to the next stage. I left it for about 20 minutes to fully cure, and then it's next that we go on to the leveling process. Now the barrier we've created out of the two products, it's actually really tough, so it's quite hard to sand it down. So what we're going to use is some 120 grit sandpaper. I've wrapped it around this block from Paint Gear. You can wrap it around a piece of wood or something that's flat and comfortable that you can sand with. All we're doing at this point is we're just leveling off the mixture that we've put on to make the barrier. It does sand down pretty well, but it will take a fair amount of time to rub down. It's a really, really important part of the process. Next up is some 180, and we're just going to do exactly the same. For this repair to look good, we need it completely flush and completely flat. If there's any raised areas, we're going to see it in the final result, and we don't want that. One good tip that I'm going to give you now is use your hands, use your fingers, rub over the area, because it might look nice and level to the eye, but your fingers and your fingertips will definitely pick up anything that isn't right with regards to our flattening process. So I'm just giving the repair a bit of a tap just to see if it's solid. Sometimes I'm still a bit amazed myself how well this works. Next up, we're now going to apply some filler to the area. I've picked this filler up from a local hardware store. I've also put it in the description of this video. You can find exactly the same stuff. It wasn't expensive and it is really easily accessible. It doesn't have to be this stuff, it can be any automotive filler. All we're going to do, we're just going to finesse the finish that we've now created with the glue and the soda. You'll notice at this point, if you've got this kind of filler, that there's two components to it. That's why they call it a two-part or a two-pack product. 2-pack products are generally regarded in most industries as the best products, the longest lasting, they set the best, and they're the most durable. In this case, we've got a larger tub of filler and a little small bag of the activator hardener. So if you just apply some of the product to a flat surface, it can be a mixing board like this, or it could be a piece of cardboard. Whatever you've got, you can use that. And what you need to do is you need to thoroughly mix the two components together. One thing to bear in mind when you're using 2-pack, 2-part products is once you've mixed the hardener in or the activator, the product is already in motion at that point. The chemical reaction has happened, so it is effectively setting from this point, and you've only got a certain amount of time and a certain amount of workability to use that product once it's been activated. Don't be too conscious of the filler being perfect. I probably played around with it too much in this instance, but that's just me. I was conscious of the recording. It doesn't matter because we're going to level this off anyway. Cure times can vary between product and temperature. I left this stuff about 20 minutes. Usually by that point it's gone off, it's set, and it's ready for sanding. I've just wrapped some 180 grit sandpaper, the same disc that I was using before. We can reuse it. Now I'm just leveling off the filler exactly the same as I did the last previous stage when we're leveling off the glue and soda combination. At this point, or any point during the sanding process, if you see any craters or imperfections in your filler work, the best thing to do is to deal with them now, because despite what people think, the paint applications will only make them look 10 times worse. It's very important at this point to get this stage right, because it will really affect the finish down the line, and it would be a real shame if the imperfections showed up at the end. One important thing to mention when you're sanding filler, just be aware that the filler is usually a lot softer than the surrounding surface. With that in mind, just be aware that we don't want to be digging in the area, we want to be nicely leveling it. I've just rubbed over with a 320 disc, and now I'm going to follow it up with a 400 disc to refine the area and make it ready for the next paint applications. Again, do a final check with your hands rubbing over it, and then we need to key up the area. In this case, I'm using a piece of grey scotch. Now we want to be looking to completely rub down the whole of the plastic that we're going to paint. We can't have any shiny bits. The next stage, because we're getting ready for paint application, is to give the area a panel wipe. This is the degreasing stage. We want to make it clean, ready for the paint. I'm just at this stage taking the opportunity as well to do a final inspection. If there's any imperfections, then the best thing to do is address them before you move on to the next stage. So at this point now, we want something to hold the piece on. In this case, it's a wing mirror. Here's a little tip for you. I've got an axle stand. I'm just shoving some old bits of tissue, from the panel wiping, or maybe an old rag. Make sure it's a clean rag. And I'm just wrapping a bit of masking tape around it. What I'm trying to do here is basically make a nice soft cushion ball. I've just rolled up a bit of tape. I'm going to stick it and back mask it onto the back of the wing mirror cover, place it on there. We have now got a nice little stand. So guys, we have now reached the paint application stages. In this video I'm using some Pro Excel Ultra Build Grey Primer. I really like the Pro Excel range anyway, but you can use whatever primer that is accessible to you. Perhaps you've already got some, that's entirely up to you. So we're just applying a nice light first coat of primer at this stage. Don't put too much on, we just want a nice light coat. And then I'm just using a heat gun, or if you've got a hairdryer, I'm just literally blowing a bit of warm air over the top just to make it flash off, because it was quite a cold day. Obviously read the aerosol or whatever product you're using for drying times. In this case I was applying some, lightly flashing it off with the heat gun, leaving it about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I was applying the next coat. After 2 coats and letting it dry for a further 10 minutes, I was ready to flat down the primer. Now you can either use 800 wet and dry, or I'm using dry 800 pad, a foam back pad. That's entirely up to you. You can also use 1000. Just make sure that the grit's enough to flat down the primer and make it nice and even and uniform. Just do a quick inspection at this point, and if you're happy with it, we can now move on to the next stage. So we always want to keep the areas clean when we're putting on paint applications. So now it's time for our final degrease, our final panel wipe. So with the primer stage complete, we're now ready to add some colour. I like to use Paint Gear's premium quality solvent base coat, but you can use whatever's accessible to you. One big mistake I see a lot of DIYers do is they absolutely blast loads of product on in their first coat. Just do your first coat nice and lightly. We're not aiming to cover the whole of the primer or the damaged area. We're just giving it a nice, even, light base. With the primer, I was just using the heat gun just to flash it off a little bit. I left it for about 5 minutes, and we was now ready for the second coat of base coat. I personally like to just make sure that all the edges are done first, to make sure you've got some coverage and there's not any primer overspill. And then with the second coat, you can layer it on a little bit thicker than the first coat, so you can get a bit more coverage. Not too much. We still don't want to be putting too much product on. The solvents can get trapped and it can cause some nightmares down the line. So just take your time. We're going to put 3 coats on. We're going to leave it 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes in between. And as you can see here, I'm now putting the final layer of base coat on. This is more just a final layer, as in we're just dusting it over the top. At this point now, all the primer should be covered. With the colouring stage complete, I'm going to use some Pro Excel 2K Clear. I really like this stuff. As mentioned before, 2-pack and 2K products are much better than single pack and 1K products. This is a real 2K lacquer. It mixes within the can when you pull the grenade piece. I really like this stuff. I've used it loads. Personally, I think you can get a professional finish that's durable, because it's really the exact same stuff as what the professional spray, except it comes in an aerosol can. But again, as mentioned before, you get whatever you like, whatever you've got, or whatever is accessible to you. So we just applied the first coat of lacquer. Again, not a full coat. Put decent coverage on, but not too much. And then again, I just left it about 5 or 10 minutes. That depends on temperatures and what product you're using and all that kind of stuff. A little indicator that it was ready for the next coat was if I just touch the bit of masking tape that's hanging off, if it started to get sticky and very tacky, it's probably ready for the next coat. This coat that you're seeing now is the second coat, and it's the final coat. I only put 2 coats on with my lacquer applications, and at this point now it should be looking nice and shiny. So here's the final piece, guys. As you can see, it's looking pretty much how we wanted it to look. I'm really impressed with it. It's all been DIY tools. It's all accessible stuff. I've not had any compressor or spray gun setup or anything like that. It's definitely something you can do at home, and you can get this standard. So there we have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed that video. It's a really cool little trick, and the results speak for themselves, really. I'm pretty impressed with that. Hopefully you guys are. And there's the back, just to prove it's the same one. There's the front, all repaired. It's not bad, is it? With rattle cans as well. So there's what we've used. We've used some Pro Excel Ultra Build primer. We had the Paint Gear base coat, colour matched however you want it to your car. and this little Mini Pro 2K Clear 2K lacquer. Just a quick reminder, if you've made it this far, please hit subscribe, press the like button, leave a comment. I'm getting millions of views on my videos, but I've got 150,000 currently subscribers, which is fantastic. But please, please, please share the videos. I want to make more. I want to keep creating. I've got loads more videos to show you. So please, if you could do those things, I'd be really appreciated. See you in the next one.